Phil Hellmuth especially has become a meme for how good he is and how good he thinks he is. There's a huge gap.
I'ma give it all I got, like grinding every day, ain't no other way.
Welcome to Embrace the Grind, the show where we talk business, finance, the world of entrepreneurship through the eyes of professional gamblers. Basically, we just talk about things that we like to talk about. And I'm here with my co-host, Andrew Moreno.
What's up, fam? Welcome to the Vibes, fam.
How's it going, buddy? How's everything been going for you?
Poker. So basically, yeah, that question for me is like poker, relationship, health. Relationship is great. Health is really good. Poker has been very turbulent lately.
We'll definitely get into more of the poker stuff because we're both professional poker players. So this podcast, video cast will be heavily into poker. But I want to talk about some other stuff, some housekeeping stuff. We've been doing Clubhouse after this show where we take our guests, we take me and you, and we host a room on Clubhouse. It's actually been a lot of fun. We've had Flo on. He was episode 2. We had Max on. He was episode 3. Max's Clubhouse went over 2 hours. That was a lot of fun where we dived into his whole backstory, his life. And it's been a really good opportunity for people that are here on the ground floor with us, episode 4, to connect with us. I think we've only had like 15 people or so in those clubhouses. A really good opportunity for people to connect and be able to ask questions.
Yeah, so Clubhouse is, I don't know if everyone is familiar with it. It's kind of a new app, but basically it's kind of an interactive forum where you can go into chat rooms and, you would chat with us and, our guest was Max. You could speak with Max or Flo. And we just basically give everyone an opportunity to interact with the guests, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's honestly not a better app on the market that facilitates talking to people like this because they can raise their hand, we can bring them up to the front of the room. Then when they're done talking, we put them back in the audience, move someone else into the queue. So that's one of the reasons why we've been doing it. And since it's just us two this week, we'll definitely do our Clubhouse this week as well. But I think I'm going to try to get Ben CB to join us. He's been wanting to join in on that. I know Joey's been wanting to join in. So there's going to be some fun Clubhouses. Don't forget to check that out after the show. And by the way, thank you guys. Episode 4, people have been downloading this. People have been watching it. We're up to 1,500 subscribers.
That's incredible.
People are leaving reviews on like Apple Podcasts. So it's going really well. We gave away a camera to someone in Michigan, goes by the name of D. Frazier. So yeah, things are growing with the podcast. I want to go back and talk about some of the guests and some of the things that came up for those guests. First of all, we had Florian on, who was somebody that we knew well, somebody that was in poker, somebody that switched to real estate. And it was an interesting conversation. But one of the things that struck me about that conversation was when he went through how much rage that he has in poker. When he would have a run bad session, I mean, we saw him like throwing temper tantrums at the table, things like that. And I thought about it in my life too. And honestly, poker pain is probably one of the hardest things, if not the hardest thing that I deal with. Do you find it to be the same?
Yeah, I think you really learn a lot about yourself in a lot of those trying moments in poker. And I think anybody out there that has played poker and had any significant losses as far as, maybe it's not even a big amount of money to them, but just that pain is something we all share. And I definitely
it almost seems illogical because not necessarily the biggest amounts that I've lost equals the most pain. It's like a collection of like, what's going on in my life? Have I been on like a prolonged downswing? How long have I been getting beaten down? And maybe it's just like one hand in one session that I only lose like one buy-in or something, but that's like the breaking point where it's like I have to go out in the parking lot to breathe into a paper bag or something to try to get right. So I've never really experienced that with anything else, business, professional. I mean, for instance, like you and I both have been dabbling in crypto and in the stock market. And there are days when I wake up and just flip open my portfolio and I see that it's lost like 15% overnight, which like now we're talking like 4 figures, 5 figures, and those are huge amounts. Can you imagine if that happened at the poker table?
Yeah, I think the thing that makes it a little bit different for me, because I experienced similar things in some of my investments where those things are just kind of working behind the scenes. there's a really personal kind of thing that happens when you lose at poker, where you're not losing to some entity like unknown, like the stock market. You're losing to the person sitting across from you, and oftentimes it can be someone that you don't like, which is a thing that happens in the poker world amongst professionals. There's kind of rivalries, and you have friends with some people and some people you don't like, and it can also just be somebody got the best of you. They outplayed you and they bluffed you, or they made a really good value bet and you leveled yourself and you called, and that feeling of, oh man, he got me good, that pain for me is so brutal. And sometimes when I put that in pain on other people, that feels really good, honestly. It's just like knowing that you got the best of them and they cracked.
Honestly, I mean, I get that. And I'm 100% on board with that. But what about when you beat someone that you actually really like? Do you feel like you also feel like the other
pain.
way?
It's so much pain.
It's like pain everywhere in poker. It's
Yeah.
like this guy is being tortured over here, and I just like made this crazy hand against him that's very unlucky. I can't help but feel for them.
Well, it makes me think of this one story, and I'm apologizing in advance for laughing. It's just so ridiculous. It's like it's made up, but it's not. So probably very early on in my poker career in Vegas, poker is hard, especially when you play low stakes and you're trying to grind out a living. You're really kind of doing everything you can to win. And I was playing a session at the Wynn, and I was just noticing all the spots at the table. Like, okay, this guy, I think I can get value from a lot. This person I'm staying away from, these sorts of things. There was this one particular spot at the table I was really just like, this guy is like not good. I can definitely take advantage. So I got into the situation with him where I 3-bet him, and then I called a 4-bet with a hand that wasn't very good. And then, but as this was happening, his dad came over and he was like, "It's time to go, son." And he handed him the racks, and he was up a lot, and we were both deep. And so that's why I was messing with him as well. And sure enough, like, we get all the money, and I had outdrawn him with some really bad hand where I played it. And it was kind of clear that I was like coming after him when my cards were revealed. And instead of like walking away from the table with the racks, I got all the money, and he had to leave away sad. Where the story gets really bad and kind of cringe is that he was a quadriplegic.
Oh my gosh.
I know. He was in a wheelchair, and his dad was kind of doing the betting for him and stuff. And,
oh my gosh.
I mean, it's so ridiculous that I feel terrible about it, and like in that moment, I was like seeing an opportunity of, hey, here's somebody who's not good at poker, who I'm deep with. I have a situation I think I can leverage. And I just kind of have tried really hard to be in that and not be in the, I'm like, this is my life. I'm doing this for my family. And, but then when I did it and when I experienced it, it was like the worst feeling in the world. And I still feel bad about it today.
It's horrible. It's actually one of the worst things about poker, in my opinion, because I feel like we both just love people, and that's one of the reasons why we're drawn to live poker. Just that social aspect. We're always making friends at the table, but it's still competition. And at the end of the day, like, that competition can be war sometimes, especially when you're playing higher stakes against really good opponents. Like, you don't want to lose, because especially for you and I, the majority of my career, like, if I didn't win, it could affect my lifestyle, and that's how it is for you too. So,
well, I just want to say one more thing about it, because I think is important too, is that I think, although I didn't talk to this kid, I think that that's what he wants. I don't think he wants me to sit there and be like, oh, I feel bad for you, therefore I'm going to just take it easy on you. Yeah. I think a lot of people that are in those kind of situations want to be treated as everyone else. And I'm sure he didn't want to get stacked or whatever, but
yeah, no, 100%. I can relate to this in the weekly meetup game that I have, because the stakes that we're playing in the meetup game are 1-2, and a lot of the guys that play are more novice players, and I can't let them win. Like, I have to show them maximum pain, because they wouldn't respect me if they were like running over me in this 1-2 no limit game. But at the same time, like, these are some of my biggest supporters. These are the guys that are buying my merch. These are the guys that are showing up for the meetup game every week. And when I, crush them in a huge hand, it kind of hurts because
Yeah.
like, you know, I love this guy. This is like one of my guys, but at the same token, it's like he wants me to crush him on some level. Like he wants me to be a good poker player. He doesn't want me to be some garbage player that he's watching on YouTube. So it's like that's kind of what you get when you sign up for the warfare that is poker.
My just another quick story. My mentor Sai, I remember we were pretty fresh in our coaching relationship and we were playing together. And I remember this hand very clearly at the win. We were playing 5-10 uncapped, and it's a big game for me. And I know Sai, he was a lot more rolled than me at the time, and still is. And we got into this spot where I had a capped range, which and I had one of the best hands I could have, but he made like a 3x overbet rip into me on the river, and I ended up folding, and he showed a bluff, and it really hurt. But also he's built differently in a way where he really enjoys that, even with his friends, to just stick it to him. But as a teacher, it's the same thing. It's like he's teaching me lessons. He's teaching me how to be really good at poker, because I'm afraid to sit in that game because I'm afraid of him. I'm afraid of those other players in the game. So I didn't. And he encouraged me to come to the game. And this happened, and we talked about it, and we worked through it. And this is the scariest thing that could have happened to me, and it happened, and I was okay.
Yeah, but in the moment, it probably was like, why is he doing this to me?
Yeah. In the moment, I wasn't too. But, I mean, you know, having the bad thing happen and working through it and realizing I lost the pot. It's okay. You know, I'm still, everyone's not laughing at me. I mean, we had this great conversation. So
it's a rite of passage. It's
a
rite of passage to just get like soul crushed by someone that you consider like a mentor or a friend. It's just something that has to happen, to be honest. I'm moving on to our second interview, which was with Max Altergott. Fascinating human being. If you guys haven't seen that, you should definitely check it out. It was episode number 3. He is German Russian, and you know, a couple years ago, I would say probably in the 2015 time range, everybody in poker was talking about the Russians or the Germans. They're like, the Germans are the best. And he was a part of this contingency that was playing in all the highest stakes and all the nosebleeds. So it was really interesting to talk to him so you can get a perspective on him. And just some of the things that he said, like he started just like us, you know, playing 2 cent, 4 cent, being stressed out about bluffing for 54 cents.
I love that story.
It was so good.
Yeah.
But he said something that really stuck with me. He said, one of the things that attracts people to poker is that even with your limited knowledge, there are opportunities in the game to make the right decision.
And this is why poker is so fun to everyone. You can make the right decisions, whether you know it or not, but in that moment, you can make the right decision.
You know, it comes down to a binary decision a lot of times where you have a hand that's pretty strong and you're facing let's say a tough bet on the river for a lot of chips. If you call and have the better hand, you made the right decision in that moment. Never mind if it's like theoretically a bad decision or if you should have folded or whatever have you. And I think that that's one of the beautiful things about poker is that making the right decision isn't necessarily the right decision. And that one particular thing allows people to overestimate their ability at the table. It fuels the entire industry.
One thing about that that's interesting to me too is that it's kind of like, I'm not a golfer, but I've been out on bachelor parties and just with friends at the driving range, stuff like that. I'm terrible. You know I'm terrible. I'm out there just for the environment and the friendship and all that. But when I hit a good shot, you know, when I hit that one good shot and I'm like, I was holding the club right and I could feel the way that the ball hit the iron hit the ball, and it went straight and it went exactly where I wanted it to go and it went close to the hole. And then my friends, they all comment how great a shot that was. That's what I remember when I go, okay, I remember too that a lot of it wasn't great, but then I remember that one moment where I was celebrated and I felt good. And then I think, oh, maybe I could go back and play.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a perfect analogy, and that's exactly what happens in poker is people hold on to these moments where in that one shot, you were better than everyone else on the course. Even though you're obviously not better than them, you had that one moment where you're like, I'm the best. So I feel like people get that in poker, and that's what's been fueling the industry. And something that you said on our last clubhouse that I thought was very profound was you talked about players' ability to accurately assess their own skills, especially in relation to the other players at the table. And I think that what is really keeping the live poker scene alive for the most part, I'm not too sure about online, but this is definitely true for live, is people's inability to correctly or closely assess their ability, or they grossly overestimate it. And I think that the people that are good at correctly assessing their ability are the ones that are going to do much better in poker over the long run.
Entire markets are built on people that have an accurate assessment of their own ability going against someone who has a false sense of their own ability. And what I'm, I guess, referring to specifically is a lot of these challenges that are happening right now in poker, where, you know, you have one person who thinks that they're a certain player, and then you have another person that thinks they're a certain player. Whoever is closest to reality is going to have an edge when they're booking the odds. And I think anybody that is booking odds that aren't in their favor is because they don't have that kind of self-awareness to know what their skill level actually is, especially in relation to the opponent that they're going to be playing.
Yeah, one of the things that you're referring to is all these heads up challenges that have been happening lately. Heads up pretty much died because it was the one format of poker, especially online, where you knew who was the better player quickly. And based on that fact alone, people wouldn't play certain people. Like, guys couldn't get action. Once it was established that Jungle Man was the best, like, nobody would play him. So, you know, nobody would play Dur. So he came up with the Dur challenge, and then Jungle Man booked it, and there was side action and things like this. And then Phil Galfond did his challenge. And I think one of the things that's really cool in poker recently are these challenges. I don't particularly like the trash talking part of it, but it makes it fun. It kind of like sportifies it, you know, like it's like WWF or something where people are calling each other out. The most high profile one was Daniel versus Doug recently. And, you know, Daniel's been celebrated as one of the faces of poker for a long time. He has an excellent resume when it comes to the World Series of Poker, tournaments. He's played high stakes. And I think as a result, Daniel has a very high assessment of his own skill. And what ended up happening was he's like, you know what? I'm going to play Doug. And like, I don't need a handicap. Like, we're just going to play straight up. And I know that I'm a dog here, but like, I think I'm good enough and I think I'm smart enough to not get crushed. And I think at the end of the day, what happened is he overestimated his skill and he underestimated how much of a gap there was there. And that's honestly what has fueled the whole poker industry. But to see it happen in real time and the casualties of losing $1 million in real time was tough for Daniel.
Yeah, I think the thing that really gets overestimated or just isn't present to, you know, some of these people that are doing the challenges, maybe even Daniel, is when you don't play online, you don't realize how many hands 25,000 hands is. Like, anyone out there that has played live, for me, I was a live player for most of my career. When I started online during COVID, I would play for, you know, 6 tables for 8-10 hours. I would do that for 3 or 4 days. And then I would look at how many hands I played. I'd be like, oh, I probably played like, I don't know, 100,000 hands. It's been crazy, you know, so many tables, boom, boom, boom. Be like, no, I played 6,100 hands. I'm like, what the heck? How is that even a thing? So when you start to realize how many hands that is, especially against one other person, I mean, and Doug's a smart guy, you know, when you have that many hands and that big of an edge, it's just, the odds are not 4-1. If they would have played 500 hands, you know, or 1,000, or, you know, because then those small sample sizes, variance is a much bigger factor. But yeah, I think anybody that isn't used to playing online doesn't really have a good perception of 25,000 hands, 20,000 hands.
So as a result, since this has happened, there's been a lot of new challenges popping up. One of the challenges that is set to go off soon is Landon Tice, who's a young kid, 21 years old, just raising millions of dollars so that he can play against Bill Perkins. And they worked something out where Bill has a huge handicap. It's like $720,000 over, I want to say 20,000 hands, which is absolutely massive. So not only that, there was Limitless, who can never get action on any heads up table. He's going on Joey's podcast saying that he'll play Fedor and he'll play him drunk and he'll play him while drinking wine on stream. And At first, Fedor kind of ignored it, but I think that Fedor realized that if he could set some terms, that it wouldn't be that bad for him. So they had their first match today, and one of the terms was, okay, you need to drink wine while we play on Skype or whatever they're using, Zoom. And the other term was that we're only going to play one table at a time, because that actually allows him more brain power on the one table. If you're at a severe disadvantage, every table that you add adds more of a gap in that advantage. So I think that, Bill did a smart thing, Bill did a smart thing by giving himself that huge handicap. Fedor did a smart thing by creating these terms that were favorable for him. Those are people that I see that more accurately can predict their own skill level versus the other person. But what you don't have with this is Daniel Negreanu and Phil Hellmuth. Phil Hellmuth especially has become a meme for how good he is and how good he thinks he is. There's a huge gap. It's not even close. And the high stakes guys are all like, oh, he's terrible. I don't want to go that far and say he's terrible. He obviously has done well in the tournament scene. But it's true. His whole brand is poker brat, being brash, saying that he's the best.
I guess that's why I'm the best player in the world.
Well, people love it. I can tell you myself, one of my favorite things to do when I'm not feeling good, I'll go on YouTube and I'll type in Phil Hellmuth blow up. And then I'll watch him blow up for like 10 minutes. It's entertainment for me. And it's like somebody that's in pain, that's freaking out when it's a way for me to just kind of laugh and unwind. So I think a lot of people can relate to that.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's probably one of my favorite things to watch on YouTube too. And funny story, we've been a part of the Phil Hellmuth wrath before. One time deep in the main event, you were going at it with Mark Kroon, who is a buddy of Phil's.
Yeah.
And, you were doing your 3-betting and your 4-betting, and Phil was like, Mark's over here trapping this young kid, and he's going to get him one of these times. And
then he punted his whole stack off to me, and Phil went berserk.
Yep.
That's so funny.
It was so funny. And I want to say that I needled him a little bit. I want to say that Phil called me an idiot or like one of those things. And I just turned around and I'm like, Phil Hellmuth just called me an idiot. This is one of the highlights of my poker career.
See, but that's why I think the thing that needs to be stated, just like I think that the poker vloggers are so important to the poker community, these characters, they're everything. That's how poker exploded. We had the Sammy Farha gamblers, we had the young reckless Chris Moneymakers, and we had all these other Fossil Man and Kid Poker, and we had the Brat, then you had this young Phil Ivey, and you had people following these characters in these stories. That's why I tuned in to watch WPT and WSOP. And I think now a lot of the people that come up, there's just a lot less character and feel in a lot of these people. So I love that. And I think Phil Hellmuth and Daniel, I think they're just the best thing in the world. And they're definitely entertaining to watch. They're going to be more fun to watch poker than watching me, that's for sure.
Yeah, they've arranged a high stakes duel. I think that's what they're calling it. They're going to put it on Poker Go. And true to form, Phil Hellmuth has negotiated pretty good terms. He's playing Daniel in a sit and go format, and I believe it's going to be live on the stage there at the Aria. So the sample size is so small. And of course, Phil can win easily in this format. He's beaten Doug Polk in this format. He's beaten Jungle Man in this format. And he won't let you forget that either. He's like, look, you said that Jungle Man was the best in the world. You said that Doug Polk was one of the best in the world, and I beat those guys. Sure, you beat them in a sit and go.
It's way different than beating Magnus Carlsen in a chess match, because there's quite a lot of variance in this game that we play, and especially when you're talking about in a live setting where you're going to be playing 50 to 100 or so hands, anything can happen. My little sister could beat Phil Ivey if the cards ran out in this very special way.
Yeah, no.
Don't hold me to that. I mean, I don't know if that's true. I don't want to put this challenge out there, my little sister against Phil Ivey. Yeah, but, you get the idea.
But this just perpetuates his whole image of I'm the greatest. And while the receipts don't really mean so much, like beating Jungle Man and beating Doug Polk in these flip formats doesn't mean a lot. The receipts are huge for the poker bystander that doesn't know better. So that's been huge for his brand. And it's interesting because when poker first started, when you were talking about all these characters, the ceiling on poker was high. Like you could build your way up, kind of like Max, we talked about with Max last week. You could go from 2 cent, 4 cent to playing 1,000, 2,000 online. Like the dream was alive. The ceiling was super high. But here in 2021, the ceiling on moving up in cash games online, especially live, is just so low. Like it's to make $1 million playing poker strictly by playing cash games is so much more difficult than it is now in 2021 than it was, 15 years ago when the games were plentiful. And as a result, building up these personas, building up the poker brat, what do you think of when I say the word magician?
Yeah, that's Antonio.
What do you think of when I say poker brat? What do you think hashtag positivity?
That's Hellmuth, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have people that are one words like Marley, like these people.
Vibes,
like, exactly. Favorable.
Yeah, that's Mimi.
So basically, in order to raise the ceiling of your ability to make money in poker now, people have realized the importance of branding themselves because not only does Phil get these like huge endorsement these huge opportunities to play in these heads up matches, but that helps further build his brand, but it brings him opportunities for endorsement dollars. I think he's had his face on like Milwaukee's Best commercials and like at Scotty Wynn at an energy drink. It's just like all these things, like the ability to brand yourself is what's kind of taken over in poker to be able to grow in terms of like a huge ceiling. So I think that the guys that are making $1 million plus now are kind of hybrid poker players and brilliant marketers. Phil Hellmuth like being the top of the list. Phil Hellmuth having the highest score probably.
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting people that come to mind for me is people like Antonio Esfandiari, also people like JRB. More so JRB because JRB I think gets a lot of flack for he was never good at poker. I think he's actually gotten tremendously better. I've seen a lot of stuff on high stakes poker. But JRB has really positioned himself to win millions of dollars because he's incredibly charismatic. He's really good with people. He has a way about him that people they want him in the game. And if that's the case, you can be a millionaire if you can get into the right games.
Yeah, definitely. I want to go back to something that happened this past week where I released a video on a big hand that I played. It was one of the most interesting hands that I've played that was pushed out into content format. And it's a very interesting format where we talk about our thoughts in real time. And as a result, the hands get pretty long-winded. So there was a lot of discussion on this one particular hand where I made an unorthodox move. And getting back to what Max said, it might not have been the right move in the moment, but because the other guy folded, it was the right move in that moment for me. Mm-hmm. And like, I think that's what's generating a lot of discussion along with everyone being like, that was good, that was bad. Or, even people are like plugging it into solves and trying to figure out like what a solver would do in this spot. And I think that's just, I don't think that there's an answer. Do you?
Well, I think the thing that kind of comes to mind when you say that, when you tell me about all this is like, people are always going to have an opinion on how you should live your life. People are always going to have an opinion on how you should have played your hand. I think the ones that you should really listen to are the people that have really, you should give more weight to the ones of the people that have done a lot more study in whichever area. So, if some street bum, says something to me about, my dog or how I'm living my life, I'm not going to care as much as if it was, I was at a conference and Naval was like, hey, I think you're fucking up,
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thing in poker. So I think, you kind of got to take everything, and there's a lot of interesting opinions on it. I think the main thing that I think, the hand as far as like the technical aspect of it, I think it has to be a fold from your opponent's perspective. The only way he could consider calling is if he thinks that you're over bluffing in that spot. And I don't think that without any dynamic or any kind of reason to think that you're over bluffing, then you should fold. And, sometimes in poker, you just got to kind of get bluffed or you just got to fold. And it happens all the time. Like there's certain board textures that come down where I just know like I'm probably getting bluffed in this spot, but you just can't really do a lot about it.
Yeah, for a little bit of a backstory, in this particular hand, I arrived to the turn with top pair in a spot where top pair was likely not going to be good. And it was a spot where a lot of people would have just checked or bet small. But I decided to do something a little bit outside of the box and move all of my chips in to try to get him to fold a stronger hand. And the board was pretty scary. Any jack made a straight. And in the moment, I thought I could have a jack here. And I would play a jack like this sometime if I went into a leveling war with him. And he's not going to have a jack. So I know he's going to be in a tough spot here. So I just went with it. Like, I didn't know if it was good. I didn't know if it was a punt. I just thought in that moment that I could make the right decision and go with my gut and he would fold it. And that's exactly what happened. I had some good players reach out to me telling me that they thought it was bad. I had some good players reach out to me saying that they loved the leveling war. So it's fun. I get to have that thing like in my back pocket now. It's probably going to live on the internet. People are going to post about it. I have folding kings versus aces. Having these little moments live on the internet are a lot of fun. You've had a couple of them as well. I want to ask you, because I'm sure that from a technical analysis, like we could go down a rabbit hole with this hand. And you've been really getting into studying recently. I know that you've kind of been reinvigorated, been looking into getting your own coach. How's that going? Have you been getting coached, or are you kind of working through it on your own right now?
So I've been working with some people. I'm actually planning on getting more of a full-time coach recently. Greg Merson has been kind enough to spend time with me talking about poker and reviewing some of my sessions and things like that. And I think that's a really important thing to do in poker, is to put yourself out there. And I was just going to say one last thing about this hand that you played, was that the people that are willing to have a thought and think like, I could try this. I think this could work. I feel like this could be good. And then do it. There's a big gap between those people and have that thought and then don't do it. So when you have that kind of thought and courage to do something, you get that kind of feedback from other good players and, you know, all these other people that have reached out to you. Without that, if you had just checked or whatever, it would have been no response from anyone. No one would have given you any feedback. And I think the same is true with reaching out to Greg, because it's an uncomfortable thing to do, is to like put yourself out there and say, hey, I'd like some help, or can you're basically looking vulnerable to this person. And there's just a lot of good people out there that want to help. And yeah, so Greg has been one of those people for me. I'm actually looking at hiring a full-time coach. I'm not sure exactly who I'll hire yet, but yeah, so I've been doing a lot of coaching myself and getting coached.
So you're getting back into actually coaching.
Yeah, I like coaching when I'm playing and being coached.
I see.
Because I think if I'm not doing those things, I'm doing a disservice to whoever I'm coaching, because I need to be fully immersed and fully thinking about the game from all aspects. So yeah, recently I've decided to do that and play a little bit less too, because poker has been pretty stressful, and it's something I just really enjoy. I've always wanted to be a teacher. I've always wanted to be a mentor and a coach. So yeah, I've been enjoying it.
You took a step back and you just put a bunch of things in play that would get you excited about poker again. One of those things being reaching out to someone who's like a higher level player and talking to them about coaching, yourself getting back into coaching. Because I know that there's this feeling of giving back in a way when you coach other people and you see the success that they have. So is it fair to say that you doing these things external in your life basically created this past couple month renaissance of like, let's get it?
Yeah. And another thing that happens for me when I'm coaching people is that because poker can feel a bit repetitive and like a job where I go in and it kind of takes some energy, it's really nice to be with someone who is excited, who is learning, who I enjoy spending time around. I get to see that and remember how that poker is that for people. It was that for me. It is this beautiful game. And one thing that I just was a big learning that I had on the mushroom video that I still think is like, I think about a lot, is that I used to get so upset with poker. I was like mad at poker. Poker's changed. Poker's not fun anymore. Poker's this, poker's that. And I realized after doing all those mushrooms it's not poker. Poker isn't changing. Everyone else is changing, and we're looking at poker differently. And I don't need to be mad at this thing, this fixed thing that's the game that's always been that game. it's myself, and I need to look at myself. So it helps me in my sessions. That thought has been really helpful.
So basically it's been all poker lately. Have you been exploring anything outside of that? Like, I know you've been like learning about stock stuff,
Yeah.
but have you been firing on anything?
Mostly I've been trying to learn. I've been taking some classes online about finance. But yeah, I've been trying to slowly move most of the money that I had for playing live into crypto and to the stock market. So the stock market currently is kind of in a really volatile state, but yeah, I'm more focused on just putting amounts that make sense for me into the market.
Yeah. So you haven't really been doing much, just kind of just throwing it in there and just leaving it.
Yeah. I don't see myself as doing anything else at this point. I think, again, going back to being self-aware, I know I'm not skilled to try to find the right entry and exit point. So I find things that I think are good investments, bounce them off people that I trust and know in that space, and then we just kind of let it sit and see what happens.
I mean, I've been kind of doing the same thing in crypto. I recently just kind of pulled out of the stock market. I still have my IRA accounts, but anything that was non-IRA, like an individual, I just moved it to crypto. And I feel like there's obviously such long-term potential for crypto, but I'm definitely gambling on some altcoins. And one of the crazy phenomenons that's been going on lately that we have to talk about is NFTs. Nobody knew what an NFT was 3 weeks ago, but now I would say the majority of the world that pays attention to the news this is part of their vocabulary now. Like, people are talking about it, and on the surface, it's like, of course, like, why didn't we think about this before? Everything is being digitized, but the one thing that hasn't really been digitized, I mean, even currencies are being digitized now through cryptocurrencies, but one thing that hadn't been digitized is art, collectibles, and now with blockchain technology, all this stuff is moving to digital. So I'm not surprised, and NFTs are 100% here to stay, but I know for certain there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be losing a lot of money in the next 6 months, because people are FOMOing in so hard right now, especially with things like NBA Top Shot. NBA Top Shot, people are unable to get packs straight off of the line because of the long queues and whatever. So they're buying everything aftermarket. And the things that they're buying aftermarket, essentially they're buying digital assets, digital moments. Let's call one a LeBron James dunk, right? And it's serial numbered 1 to 10,000, let's call it. And people are piling in and spending $100,000, $200,000 on these serial numbers. And sure, right now there's a lot of FOMO money in there, and people are paying it, and people are buying it, and people are selling it. NBA Top Shot's a little unique because they have such a huge brand. Like, NBA is a huge brand, so I can see digital collectibles like living forever. But who's to say that NBA isn't going to release, more supply? Like, they're not going to just give everyone a pack. As soon as the supply and demand gets out of whack, there's going to be a lot of people left holding what they call holding the bag. And in the digital collectible space, holding a bag means that you're just holding air. There's not, like, you don't own a sports card.
I do that all the time.
Like, at least if you're holding a bag, when you holding it, quote unquote, holding a bag with a Mickey Mantle card, like, at least you have the card.
Yeah.
Like, here's this thing that used to be worth a lot, but it's not worth anything anymore. Now,
can you imagine if you're the guy who paid $200K for this, rare moment or whatever, and then, a year later somebody buys it for $6?
Yeah, I think that's where it's going, honestly. And
I've heard the term bubble being thrown around. It's like a bubble. Apparently there's been bubbles around this type of stuff before, hasn't there?
Yeah, with the sports card industry, it's crashed and then had a renaissance. The problem is that everybody is creating an NFT right now. So, things like NBA, that makes sense. People have traded NBA cards forever. NBA cards are hot. People have traded Pokemon cards. People, like, there's other things that have longevity, Magic the Gathering, things like that, like things that have been around for a long time. So creating digitized versions of that makes a lot of sense to me. But what's happening is there's been this mad rush into the space that somebody like Logan Paul, He created a card, a Logan Paul card, and digital card, serial numbered it, and then sold all of them in one day. How much do you think that he personally made in one day?
I don't want to know.
Over $5 million
Oh man.
in digital anime-looking Logan Paul serial numbered cards. And I'm not saying that what he did was nefarious or that he was intentionally creating buzz and using his social media influence to basically sell a bunch of people air. There's no longevity with an anime Logan Paul card. There's no proof that people are going to want this card in 10 years or 5 years or 3 years. So what's happening is people are like frenzy, NFT, let me get in there. I want to buy it. They sold out instantly, right? People are buying and trading it right now. But if Logan Paul just stopped making videos, becomes irrelevant, who's going to want to buy this Logan Paul anime card for, you paid $100,000 for it? Like, it's going to be hard. So I think that what's going to happen is people are jumping on the bandwagon to try to make money off of this. And if they don't have longevity, and if they're not an established huge thing like the NBA or like Pokemon, people are going to be left holding air, essentially, losing a lot of money. So that's definitely one of my fears. And I want to hop into the space. Like, it's fun. People are like showing these moments and it looks like a lot of fun. And I want to get in there, but I just don't want to be left, quote unquote, holding the bag.
I think a lot of people are probably in that headspace. One thing too is like, it sounds like a gamble. A lot of people, they don't maybe realize that they are gamblers or that they enjoy that rush. But I mean, this whole Logan Paul thing, what if he dies in a car accident next week?
Then it could be worth, a ton of money.
Yeah. So there's always, I mean, not to say that that's what's going to drive value, but there are scenarios where you pick up something and there's hope that even though you paid a lot for it, that it could be, maybe it's an NBA player that's a rookie that you get one of these packs and you pick it up and you pay a lot for it because you think maybe the upside is there. That's the thing too, right?
Exactly.
So people
Yeah.
maybe get the next LeBron James number 38 or something.
Well, think about this. The NBA Top Shot moments are certain players obviously having like a cool moment that gets serialized, memorialized, and a collectible that you get to keep. So, you work this angle almost like a trader, like, okay, I think that Tyler Hero, last year,
Mm-hmm.
if you would have said he's underrated and the Miami Heat are going to the finals, and I feel like people are going to finally know who Tyler Hero is. If like you're in and these like little things, you can buy his card before the NBA finals. Or if you think, such and such team is going to go on a run and reach the NBA finals, and maybe Kawhi Leonard's going to get his first ring in Toronto a couple of years ago, but you invested in Kawhi Leonard before the playoffs, you can flip it into a massive profit. But then maybe on the same token, if you hold it too long and he gets traded and nobody cares about Kawhi anymore, the opposite thing could happen. So I think that it's like anything. There's going to be opportunities for you to buy and sell. It's like a lot of fun for people. I think NFTs are honestly the future. People are going to be able to, I think it has a chance to revolutionize sports as well. Right now, the way that an NFL player or an NBA player makes money is through their likeness, and it's all centralized. Like the NBA pays them. That's where they get their money. But if they can set up like tokens, collectibles around their likeness, and they can get control the money that comes in, and you can actually, so let's say you create an NFT, you can actually write it into the smart contract that every time that gets resold, you get a royalty. Let's call it 5%. Wow. So Logan Paul wrote into the NFT that anytime there's a transaction on his buying and selling, he gets a percentage back to the original art creator. I think this is actually huge for the crypto space in general, because it's all based on crypto. Like in order to be able to create an NFT, you do it on top of a technology, a smart contract technology. Most of these are being created on Ethereum, which is one of the reasons why I'm personally, this is not financial advice, by the way. This is one of the reasons why personally I'm kind of big on Ethereum right now, because most of these NFTs are being built on top of Ethereum. They're writing in the smart contract technology is saying, they're writing in like, give me a royalty on this. And then in order to buy and sell it, you have to use ETH to actually make the transaction. So not the other reason that I'm big on ETH as well is because Ethereum 2.0 is supposed to be coming out, and the guy that created Ethereum, he's nerdy looking. Like,
he looks like the guy that created Ethereum. No offense.
yeah, like I mean in poker, like I don't know if Lucky Chewy's one of the best players in the world, but when I look at him, when I look at Ike Haxton, I'm like, those guys they look smart. Like, I'm gonna invest in those guys, and that's the exact same thing with Ethereum here.
Yeah, I think Ethereum has like been always very interesting to me too. A lot of these different cryptocurrencies, like now we're actually having use cases, because before these are just kind of like great concepts. But people are like, oh, these could really revolutionize things someday. But someday is kind of looking like very soon to now, where they're building these things that are actually being used and people are actually paying money for on top of these. So I think anytime you're looking at maybe making a lot of money on a cryptocurrency or really any investment, you gotta be in first, obviously, but you gotta like take a leap of faith and buy something that people aren't necessarily buying. And it might seem like everyone's buying Ethereum and Bitcoin right now. They're not. I mean, when you look at how many people know about it, but how much room there still is to grow, it's in relation to what currencies are out there and different commodities like gold and all these things that people invest in. Crypto is just not even really on the radar. So because we're in a space where people talk about it all the time and we've seen the price go up so much, oftentimes we think we've missed out. I can tell you, when I bought Ethereum at $48, I thought I missed out because my mentor was telling me to buy it at 20, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And then so that way I bought a little bit and then I sold and I kept, you know, so again, like you haven't missed out in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it's not financial advice either. I'm not a financial advisor. I always wanted to say that on a video for some reason. I feel like you kind of made it if you say that. So
yeah, no, definitely. It's pretty awesome. Yeah. I've been keeping my eye on NFTs, the crypto space in general. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to start the second channel. Obviously, I wanted to connect with you. We have this weekly thing where we do it in sort of a video cast format. But on this channel, I'm going to be putting together videos that are not necessarily like this format, maybe like a vlog format where it's like, I tried buying NBA Top Shop and this is what happened, you know? So expect a video like that coming soon. I'll probably start dabbling around and see if I can make a little bit of money in the NFT space and talk about some of the things that interest me, because I talked about this on my live stream the other day. If I talk about all the stuff that I'm interested on my Johnnie Vibes channel, just my regular channel, people would be upset. They're like, show me the poker hands.
they're like, but what did you do with jacks? Tell me.
By the way, if you go to howtoplaypocketjacks.com, it redirects to Johnnie Vibes.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I like that. That's smooth.
I bought that because that's actually like, I feel like one of the number one questions for new players. Like, so I had jacks.
Yeah, jacks is a trouble hand, man. It's trouble.
So anyways, yeah, I wanted a space where I could just talk about all things that are interesting to me, because at the end of the day, as a poker player, like, we have this thing inside of us. We're hustlers.
Yeah.
Like, we're looking for angles. I mean, within the rules, obviously, we're not trying to angle people, but we're looking for like ways to exploit, ways to get in there and make a little bit of money. And that's exactly what I've been doing with the crypto stuff and the NFT stuff. And, you know, I was thinking about even starting a brand from scratch to see if I can do it, and like working with Shopify and all these things. Like, I love the process of building a business or finding an angle and exploiting it. So expect that to come on future Embrace the Grind content. But this is here to stay. Us talking, bringing guests on. I want to bring on another guest in the stock market, James Rosenthal.
Yeah.
I've been talking to him.
He's going to be
on.
great.
A lot of people that are within poker that have built businesses and brands through poker. We're going to be talking to them and just catching up week to week. So for you, it's Texas.
Yeah.
For me, I'm going to stick around San Diego for a little bit.
I don't blame you. It's nice here, man.
It's really nice here.
And if any of you guys out here, if there are any guests that you guys want to see, or if there are any particular topics, you know, make sure to comment, send us messages, because really this is kind of an open format. And we, you know, a lot of these people have been in the poker industry because we know that's been our industry, but we also want to know, if that's what you guys want. So just keep.
Yeah, I mean, it's a unique opportunity for
Yeah.
people that are watching right now, because anybody that's watching this right now, they're in early. Like, we're only on episode number 4. So they have the viewer, you guys have a unique opportunity to help us create topics, steer the conversation in a certain direction, not just through commenting on here on the channel or through joining us on Clubhouse. So it's a lot of fun. The journey's been fun. Thank you for joining me. I feel like this is the best. These weekly talks here.
Well, I mean, if for me, it's like, I just get to, once a week, I get to hang out with my bro and we get to talk about life and stuff. So
I get you out of the
great.
house. You've been getting out of the house lately, right?
Yeah, I've been playing basketball, riding my bike. It's been good.
Nice. It's good to see you back on the health grind, getting everything under control. A lot of big stuff coming up. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone watching. Really appreciate you. And get on the grind and let me know what the grind is in the comments for you guys, what you guys want to hear. We'll talk to you guys next week. For now, embrace the grind.
Take care, guys.
I'ma give it all I got.